Hello, my name is Stephen Denman. My organisation is Shining Guidance. My website is shiningguidance.com. I'm going to talk to you today about Autism Spectrum Disorder, ASD conditions, and reincarnation. So, the question we need to ask is what is the spiritual energetic basis of a child or adult who has autism spectrum disorder, ASD conditions, whilst they're incarnating here on planet Earth in the 3D holographic reality of the material dimension? Now, the condition known as autism spectrum disorder, ASD, can result from several different situations, but from the perspective of the soul personality, autism spectrum disorder, ASD, is a condition that allows the soul personality to incarnate into a physical body where the electromagnetic based energetic set has been formatted to use very different life perception as experientiality, whilst that soul personality continues to resonate here on planet Earth. Now, we know that the indigo children, as well as the crystal children, and also the spectral children, and their more recent electromagnetic mixed incarnate equivalences, have been incarnating here to bring us out of the much lower and more condensed and slower frequencies of the 3D holographic reality of the material dimension. And this was especially the case, obviously, after World War One, and then World War Two, and then the Korean War and the Vietnam War, obviously took place here on planet Earth. Now, we know that individuals with autism spectrum disorder have an equated and rather unique kind of electromagnetic based energy set. For example, some individuals who have autism spectrum disorder, ASD conditions, will have an interrelated, shall we say, indigo and crystal based frequency pattern as part of their incarnation. Now, many of those with autism spectrum disorder are intensely connected a lot of the time to the indigo, the crystal, or spectral electromagnetic based frequency sets that resonate beyond space time within the 4D holographic reality of the astral plane. And the majority of those with autism spectrum disorder, ASD, conditions do not know on a conscious level that they are actually connecting with the psychical and electromagnetic resonances of the higher astral plane by using their higher selves. It's literally an autonomic process that occurs consistently on an unconscious level without them actually having any inkling or any level of awareness of what is really going on. So, children and adults with autism spectrum disorder, ASD conditions, have far more connectivity on a spiritual and supernal level, and they are connected pretty much all of the time into the frequencies of the 4D holographic reality of the astral plane. Such individuals with autism spectrum disorder, ASD conditions, just need to trust in the process of their own psychical and electromagnetic connectivity to the 4D holographic reality of the astral plane, and should really try and ignore any of the scientific rationalization that's going to be given to them by more neurotypical human beings that probably will see them as rather bizarre and isolated individuals if they even bring the subject up with the wrong people. So, individuals with autism spectrum disorder, ASD conditions, we know like to categorize and sort things out in a very structured, logical, and rigid manner and put them into a scientific matrix themselves, because that is the only way that such individuals with autism spectrum disorder, ASD conditions, can effectively and properly interface with the 3D holographic reality of this material dimension. Most individuals who have autism spectrum disorder, ASD conditions, perceive the 3D holographic reality of this material dimension in a very abstract and holistic way compared to more neurotypical individuals. Now, the parents of a child with autism spectrum disorder, ASD conditions, have absolutely no influence whatsoever energetically on the resonance state of their children who have autism spectrum disorder, ASD conditions, and therefore every reason for a soul personality becoming inserted into a physical body that's defined as a human being here on planet Earth who has autism spectrum disorder, ASD conditions, during their incarnation here is done entirely for experiential, intentional reasons that are particularly designated to that individual allocated soul personality and for no other reason whatsoever. So those who have autism spectrum disorder, ASD conditions, enter into the 3D holographic reality of this material dimension from the 4D holographic reality of the astral plane with a completely innocent emotional and psychological level of discernment and outlook, And really, that's the way the soul personality wants it configured, so that it can come in and intensely understand that experientiality that is needed, and to discover and to sense those different ranges of emotionality as an individual here incarnated on planet Earth who has autism spectrum disorder or ASD conditions. So most individuals with autism spectrum disorder ASD conditions are spiritually very advanced, and unconsciously many of them do know that at some point other more neurotypical human beings will also incarnate on planet Earth in future lifetimes, where they will also experience the same emotional and psychological condition that they have experienced in their own incarnation. But again, I'd like to reiterate that is all completely unconsciously perceived. It's not conscious in them on any level. And obviously the experientiality of interacting with more neurotypical human beings here on planet Earth is sometimes a bit of a struggle for those who have autism spectrum disorder ASD conditions. However, it does mean a much deeper level of spiritual learning can occur, as the child or teenager with autism spectrum disorder ASD conditions has to become fully aware of the intricacies of their own emotionality and the emotionality of more neurotypical individuals around them, and has to do that early on in order to prepare them for adulthood, so they can live a timely and effective and shall we say productive existence whilst they're here incarnating on planet Earth. So we know that children and teenagers with autism spectrum disorder ASD conditions might also have sensory overload, because they experience everything in one ginormous convergence. And obviously more neurotypical individuals use perhaps psychological barriers or filters around themselves and each other from the point of conception, that is obviously birth, to the stage of death. Many neurotypical human beings are completely unaware of how to even be telepathic and naturally empathic. However, for those who have autism spectrum disorder ASD conditions, they tend to be far more telepathic and naturally and rather instinctively empathic in a very gentle and sensitive way, and far more aligned and linked and resonant with the faster types of frequency ranges that exist beyond space-time in the 4D holographic reality of the astral plane. Now, depending on the extent of the autism spectrum disorder ASD condition, such individuals most definitely have an intenser level of spiritual connectivity. Their ability, potency, thought processes and functions may be associated with the frequency bands much more that are in alignment with the 4D holographic reality, the astral plane, than obviously here in the physicality of being on planet Earth. But unfortunately, many individuals with autism spectrum disorder ASD conditions tend to suppress or stifle their own natural psychical abilities in terms of being able to connect into the 4D holographic reality of the astral plane whilst they're incarnating on planet Earth, because of the physicality around them. Even the light vortexes or wheels that are known as chakras, and the actual auras of individuals who have autism spectrum disorder ASD conditions tend to be rather differently configured than as with neurotypical individuals. And because they're functioning on much faster types of frequency bands that connect into the 4D holographic reality of the astral plane whilst they incarnate here on planet Earth, those vortexes that are radiantly associated with the heart light vortex, the throat light vortex, the pineal gland light vortex, and the crown light vortex do not need to be separate lower types of light vortexes with individuals who have autism spectrum disorder ASD conditions, as opposed to those individuals who are neurotypical. And so this means individuals with autism spectrum disorder ASD conditions can have a composite light vortex in which the first three, which are the base light vortex, the sacred light vortex, and the plexus light vortex, combine into a single, much larger kind of light vortex, which functions like the lower three, all resonant as one, basically, which supports their corporeal form of the physical body whilst they're here incarnating on planet Earth. So I hope I've covered enough information to to get you interested in what's going on with this subject. It's fascinating information. It's very rarely talked about, but I thought it was really important to bring this to public attention. And we need to understand that, for individuals who have autism spectrum disorder, ASD conditions, like many other aspects of being a human being here on planet Earth, they chose to incarnate here on planet Earth to really, on a soul personality level, really experience what it is like to sense and to know and to tune into their own emotions, their own feelings and how to interact as a human being here, whilst they are maintaining this incredible spiritual and supernal connectivity that they have, which is unconsciously done literally on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. And really, that is truly incredible. So on that note, folks, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching this video. It's been a pleasure to present this information to you. And on that note, I'd like to say thank you very much and goodbye.